We are just days away from the start of the 26-27 Premier League season, and if you thought last year was a little dull, brace yourself. Things are going to be different this time around. If you're one of these neutral fans of It's a Good Game for the Neutrals fame, you're in for some absolute TV gold. From Tottenham's It Can't Possibly Get Any Worse, to the transitional chaos of no fewer than 9 new managerial appointments, and with a sprinkling of new financial rules, here is why the new Premier League season won't be boring, but why Arsenal will still win it. First off, we have the touchline roulette with 9, count them 9 new managers, a Premier League record, meaning there's just as much chaos in the dugout as there is on the pitch. But what makes this so fascinating is that they fall into 2 categories. The first one, those coaches making the step up within English football, like 𝗘𝗫𝗧𝗏 replacing Pep Guardiola at Manchester City. Yes, he was Pep's assistant. Yes, Mikel Arteta proved that the apprentice route can work, but actually stepping into the shoes of arguably the greatest Premier League manager ever after being sacked by Chelsea, that's a whole different ballgame. Arne Slot succeeded Klopp brilliantly in year 1 before completely shitting the bed in the second year, whilst Unai Emery and David Moyes barely lasted 12 months trying to replace 2 legendary figures. If Maresca can keep the City machine rolling, they're instant title favourites. If he stumbles, the board look completely foolish for appointing almost an image of Pep rather than the best manager that's available. Then you have Andoni Iraola making the dreaded so-called step up to Anfield. But if you think replicating his Bournemouth masterclass at Liverpool is just a copy and paste job, I think you're wrong. On paper, yes, he's earned the opportunity to give it a go. His high-pressing, direct style certainly echoes Klopp's best work, but the team isn't a settled 11. They've just lost Salah, and they barely squeezed into the top 4 last term. Top 5. If the teams below them smell blood, Iraola's honeymoon period gets cut short, and it just becomes about finishing in the Champions League spots again, by hook or by crook. And then there's Michael Carrick at Old Trafford. Does going from interim manager to permanent manager make him new? Technically, yes, but the stakes remain as volatile as ever. If he fails, the pressure cooker of a club like Man United could eat him alive, but if he gets it right, what if he gets it right? What if the new recruitment strategy pays off and United enter their first genuine title race since the Solskjaer era? The Premier League isn't ready for a competent Manchester United. Honestly, most football media outlets wouldn't even know what to write about anymore. The second category, though, is where things get properly weird, I guess. It's the unknown quantities arriving from outside of English football. I mean, if Xabi Alonso replicates his Leverkusen magic at Chelsea and wins the title unbeaten, it is instantly the greatest debut season in Premier League history, bar none. But you don't just walk into Stamford Bridge, flip a switch and cruise to the title, do you? Well, Antonio Conte did, to be fair. But below Alonso, the appointments feel like my football manager save telling me I'm getting too old. Arbeloa at Fulham, I can't wrap my head around it. Meanwhile, PSG at Crystal Palace and Marco Rosa at Bournemouth bring impressive tactical CVs on the continent, if not a little short-lived in Sage's case, but both walk straight into smaller clubs, dealing with big schedules, European commitments, and having lost key players in recent times. This level of unknown can turn a promising dark horse into a club that flirts too closely with a catastrophic relegation battle. And as for Matthias Jessler taking over at Newcastle, poor guy. I think their entire saga will be an entertaining watch this year because he steps into a club-wide identity crisis, not just within the playing staff. Has a team ever sold so many key players in one summer? I'm not so sure, but it does bring me nicely, almost as if I wrote this, to the second spark about to ignite the Premier League flame: the money, the wages, and the transfer window arms race.
Morgan Rogers to Chelsea. Here we go.
Now, dipping into the transfer market these days feels practically compulsory. But every squad can be improved, there's always money to be made, and boards have to show ambition. But every so often, a fourth motivation enters the chat. The last season was so utterly awful, we cannot, I repeat, cannot let that happen again. Enter Chelsea and Tottenham Hotspur. If you look at the expenditure table this summer, you won't be surprised to see both clubs way out in front. We're talking hundreds of millions of pounds, and with the deadline fast approaching, that number is still climbing. From Chelsea's perspective, a disastrous end to the campaign, a revolving managerial door, and a total lack of direction inside the squad created a mess that desperately needed fixing. They missed out on European football entirely, and at Stamford Bridge, that's unacceptable. For Spurs, though, back-to-back 17th place finishes, and the genuinely harrowing threat of relegation meant they had no choice but to smash open their piggy bank, if anyone still uses piggy banks these days. This level of desperation throws a fascinating twist into the new season, because on one hand, shiny new toys, marquee moves for the likes of Tonali and Fernandes alongside a serious defensive overhaul have given them every reason to feel reborn. But the other side to this coin is that it really could drive up the level of competition towards the top of the league. Again, this is all without a ball being kicked, but under the premise that both of these sides get better, they could stake a claim for the Premier League's top 6, or even the Champions League. A fight so brutal, as I mentioned earlier, it almost left Liverpool out in the cold last season. Now, could all these new signings still flop spectacularly? Of course. If I could predict transfer outcomes with 100% accuracy, I wouldn't be sitting here talking about it. But if the traditional Big Six all improve at the same time, taking points off each other every single weekend, it creates the ultimate drama for the chasing pack, the fearlessly ambitious sides who historically have no right to be up there, the best of the rest. Make no mistake, it is not just the big spenders making life uncomfortable at the top. The traditional mid-table pack have fundamentally elevated their game across the board. Aston Villa are by far laying down the strongest claim to break the traditional top 6 monopoly, and teams like Brighton, Brentford and Bournemouth aren't just surviving anymore, they've elevated their entire operational standards from top to bottom. Brighton's global recruitment network continues to unearth ballers from nowhere. Brentford's data-driven recruitment and set-piece mastery makes them a nightmare for anyone's backline. And Bournemouth, yes, under new manager 𝗦𝗶𝗴𝗍, have been playing some of the best football in the league in the past few years. Basically, these sides don't park the bus and pray for a scoreless draw when the title contenders come to town anymore. They're pressing high, they're controlling possession, and more importantly, they've got individual quality to turn any fixture into a good old banana skin. Now at this point, we do have to also acknowledge the big elephant in the room too, because it's not just tactics, it's cold hard cash. English mid-table clubs now possess the financial muscle to pull top-tier talent from anywhere across Europe, and it's ridiculous. Look at Bournemouth, casually dropping 41 million on Mamadou Sangaré, picking him up from a second-place Lens side in Liga, and making him swap Champions League football for the Europa League. Crystal Palace did the exact same thing by poaching Lens' manager too, while Nottingham Forest dropped over 30 million on Ousmane Diomande from Sporting. That's a player ditching guaranteed Champions League football for a team basically fighting off relegation, purely because Premier League money talks. And all of this means that for the teams with lofty ambitions, the concept of the routine win is officially dead. I think it has been for a few years, but the numbers don't lie. Spurs have picked up a grand total of 1 point from their last 5 meetings with Fulham, and Arsenal have lost 3 of their last 4 against Bournemouth. In my eyes, this is all exciting. It's more competitive across the breadth of the Premier League, not just the title race, but it is all about to be underlined by what's happening off the pitch, as the January transfer window is about to change forever.
Well, forget PSR, because now it's all about SCR.
Now, to understand why the second half of the season is going to be so, let's call it, dynamic, we have to talk about the new financial ruling known as the Squad Cost Ratio, or SCR. From this season onwards, Premier League clubs are capped at spending 85% of their total revenue on squad costs, which includes player wages, transfer amortization, and agent fees. But here's the kicker. Unlike the old PSR rules, which saw finances totaled over a rolling 3-year period, the Premier League is implementing the new rules in real time with a strict March the 1st deadline. If a team falls foul of the rules, there could be financial and sporting sanctions to deal with. That's right, I'm talking points deductions for the current season. Immediately. It means January is going to be this chess match of loan deals, bargain hunting and number crunching that may stifle the progress of those teams who can't afford to spend in the moment. Basically, the days of buying a way out of a mid-season slump or realigning your investment with your ambitions are gone. So teams will do well to have things sorted by the end of the summer. And that brings us all the way back to the subplot in all of this. Why Arsenal are favourites to win back-to-back Premier League titles. Yes, the Gunners are transitioning from the hunters to the hunted. Yes, playing as defending champions brings an entirely new brand of psychological pressure. But against everything I've just mentioned, Arsenal seem to come out on top when looking at the bigger picture. Liverpool and City are adapting to life under new coaches. Chelsea and Spurs will be hoping that multiple new signings don't take too long to gel with each other. And those in the chasing pack ready to pull off a fairy tale-like season will be juggling busy schedules with smaller squads and financial reporting to worry about. All whilst Arsenal are completely settled. Mikel Arteta isn't starting a project, he's years in. The spine of David Raya, William Saliba, albeit injured for a while, Gabriel, Declan Rice, Bukayo Saka have spent years building this telepathic chemistry. Unless a freak injury crisis occurs, they won't need to embark on a mid-season spending spree, and none of their major signings need time to adapt, with Solis not really expected suddenly to be the star after his move from Belgium. They are as near to fully calibrated as you'd expect them to be, now having the monkey off their back about not winning anything, and to be honest, are operating in a league full of teams that are still trying to find their feet in one way or the other. Mark my words, this Premier League season will be wild, unpredictable and anything but boring. But when the dust settles in May, don't be surprised if the most sought after prize in English football stays in North London. Well, the red half.